to the GameDevLondon podcast. I'm your host, Roz Tuplin, and I'm here today with Jade Leamcharaskul, also known as JD Wasabi, games musician, games composer, original organiser for GameDevLunch, and now GameDevLondon. How are you today, Jade?
I'm doing very well, thank you. This is very exciting, and I've never really done this before, so fingers crossed that this is a really good thing, but also it's a good adventure.
Right, same, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're in safe hands with me.
Good.
And it's great to see you again. You're looking really well, and it's just been too long since we've seen each other.
Yep, likewise. Just for a bit of context, we were actually working together on other things, but obviously with lockdown happening, we had to put that on hold. But I'm hoping that we can work together again on some new exciting things as well. So, but obviously we don't know what's happening, so fingers crossed.
Yeah, we're looking to the future. Lots of cool plans have been put on hold this year for a lot of people, but we're looking to the future.
Yes.
So let's get started. So GameDevLondon
Yes.
actually started life as GameDevLunch. So can you tell me a bit about GameDevLunch and how that started?
Yep. So I do have my notes here, which is on my desktop. So if I'm looking there, that means I'm looking at my notes, which I was frantically typing. So GameDevLunch, according to MeetUp.com, I joined in March 11, 2013. That is
Oh my God.
ages ago. But I think I actually started to attend the meetups in around 2015. So back then, the organizer was a really lovely lady called Huda. I think she was working at Sony at that time, but anyways, she messaged me and be like, hey, we're doing this kind of game dev lunch thing, and I am personally writing to you because we need more ladies and non-dudes into the group. So having that personal message was like, oh, that's really cool. Like I was like hovering back in the corner, just going like, should I? But to actually have like that personalized invite was a really good like motivation to go. So after that, I attended, and I attended like almost every meeting because it used to take place in, was it the Plaza in Oxford Street Circus?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, do you remember the big plaza place there with the food court? And like W.H. Smith's downstairs? It was really random.
Oh my God, remember Oxford Street?
Yeah, I do remember Oxford Street. like that big row of like big shops and all that. Remember that? Okay. So we used to meet there like every month or so, and I just attended until it was time for Huda to step down as the organizer. Before, sorry to backtrack, Huda was actually not the original organizer. Huda stepped up when the original organizer kind of stepped down. I don't know, I had to do a bit of detective work on Meetup. So it's like, okay, there was actually one other organizer who was the original organizer. I'm afraid I don't know what happened to that organizer. It's like so long ago and a bit random. If I randomly message now, I'll be like, hey, do you remember this meetup group that you started back in 2012? So anyway, that's the history. I don't know too much about the original origins. So fast forward, Huda stepped down and I stepped up because I was like, there all the time, and then it was really good. We kept meeting up at the plaza until it closed for renovation or something like that. So then afterwards we became a bit nomadic, and I was just like, oh my goodness, if we're meeting like every month, and it was a really hard sell for the venues because it's just like, we don't know if like 20 people are going to turn up or like 2, but we still want to book out like all the tables there. So that was a bit interesting to say the least. And until it got to the point where I'm like, oh no, we definitely need to find a permanent home because this is really stressful to keep finding a new venue because the other one didn't quite work out, or it felt really awkward to keep asking. So I was walking around King's Cross, and I came across my local library, and I was like, oh, I wonder if I can get away with asking them if it's okay for us to just meet up like once a month for like 2 hours. So can we book out their tables? So I asked them, and they like, oh yeah, of course, that's absolutely fine. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's really cool. And my main worry about it was just like, oh no, do we need to like pay? I mean, if it wasn't too expensive, that'll be okay. But if it's like something like 200 or whatever stupid, then I'm like, maybe the one time. But it was fine. So after we did our first few meetings there, everyone was really happy. I told the library, like, I'm really sorry if we do get a bit loud, because it is a
We're game
social, like,
developers and we're noisy. That's how it is.
yeah, and we're talking about games. How exciting is that? But luckily, yeah, they're really cool about it. And I was like, yeah, we're not meeting in the like the quiet library aspect. We're like only meeting in the cafe area. So it's a bit like that's like a social meeting area anyway. And yeah, they were really cool about it, and we've been there ever since. And now it's just grown into GameDevLondon now, because it's really grown. It's like 1700 people in the group now.
I love how you just threw out that like crazy.
Yeah,
Just,
yeah. I had to think about that.
yeah,
Yes.
it's really impressive, and I think why do you think that initiatives like this are so important to the game dev community?
Hmm. I think what really spurred me to like take up the mantle of being the main organizer was that I had just finished university, so obviously I was like doing the whole like, oh, I had to network, have to meet people, but it was kind of really scary to do that, just because like as like a one person female, you know, just
Yeah.
walking around late at night in London, and
Mm-hmm.
most of these meetings were like at pubs and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of, it was a bit uncomfortable, just because I don't really drink. I
Mm-hmm.
think drinks are way too expensive, especially in London. And it's just like, oh, this is,
Is
do I
there
really
another way
have,
of doing this? Yeah.
yeah, do I really need to put myself in this kind of uncomfortable situations all the time? Especially like, like loads of people have been in the industry, they're like, oh yeah, you just have to keep putting yourself out there. And it's just like, but it's late, and I don't want to like, I don't want to keep spending like what, 20, 30, 50 quid per event,
Mm-hmm.
just so that I can be one of the crowd,
Yeah.
be one with what is the industry norm.
Mm-hmm.
So when I became the main organizer, it was, like a real godsend that the library was really cool, because I wanted a place where, you're not forced to drink or buy
Mm-hmm.
food or
Mm-hmm.
anything, because it's a public local library, so people can just like rock in and do their homework or catch up with emails or whatever, but they can also bring in their own food. And it's like, oh, this is great. You don't have to actually spend money if you don't want
Mm-hmm.
to.
Yeah, because that's a
Uh,
real barrier for some people, isn't it? Especially if
yeah.
you're an impoverished game dev, maybe
Yeah.
working on your first project.
Yeah. And so that made it a lot easier as well, because if we're meeting at lunchtime, that means, the space in the area is already open to like parents, or maybe carers as well, or if you need more like, I think the term is like, is it disability access,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of thing. So obviously that kind of public local library had like better facilities like lifts and disabled toilets and all that. So it's just like, oh, that's great. And then obviously it's also better for like students as well, because like, if you are like a fresh graduate and you're already like going to all these pubs just to network with people, it's difficult.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Obviously,
Yeah.
right now there aren't any game dev lunches. I mean,
Sadly not.
right? Um, do you find that the developers who would typically be attending your lunches, do you think they're struggling right now with lockdown conditions? Not just necessarily from a business point of view, but from a personal point of view. And have you found or come across any good solutions or coping mechanisms?
Oh, I actually struggled with this question when I was trying to prepare for it earlier. So what I wrote was, yeah, lockdown would affect people in different ways. So I can't quite, you know,
You
have a
can't speak to
nice,
everyone, right?
yeah, I can't have a nice tidy answer which would apply to everyone, because what I noticed with doing our meetups in the library and trying to foster that kind of inclusive space right from the get-go was that, yeah, that there's so many different types of people and so many different developers,
Mm-hmm.
not even like pure developers as well. We can like lots of audio people, lots of
Mm-hmm.
artists, and lots of random people in between. So yeah, it's difficult to have a nice tidy answer to that question, but yeah, solutions, I think definitely be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
You can feel trapped, like being at home and going like, oh no, I can't be productive because, your routine is just not your routine anymore. So yeah, definitely be kinder to yourself, and it's okay to feel these feelings. It's okay to feel that guilt, and it's also okay to not feel that guilt. People would
Mm-hmm.
process things very, very differently. So yeah, no, definitely be kind to yourself, and you might as well use this time to indulge and like catch up with reading, or just do painting or sketching, or just play games like a
Yeah.
good chunk of us are already doing.
And
Yeah.
take inspiration from things that aren't necessarily games as well. Like, I think this is a good time to kind of
Yeah.
expand your repertoire in general, and like
Yes.
you say, be reading things, be watching films you wouldn't normally take the time to watch,
Yeah.
just experimenting with that.
Yeah. And it's like, it's a weird blessing in disguise if you are in this environment to just like take a break. Obviously, as I said, it can't apply to everyone, but it's, like for me, I randomly started playing the ukulele and the guitar, like just
What?
just because. Yeah, so I got like all my instruments here. I got my old violin out just
Oh,
to,
lovely.
yeah, experiment with recording. And yeah, so I'm just like, well, I never could find the time to just sit down and just play for myself, like for fun. Before then it was like, oh, I need to practice for a gig, or oh, we have music classes, so I was practicing for that. But during this time, now that there is time, like playing for yourself is a really nice feeling. So yeah,
Mm.
I guess that's a good advice. It's okay to do things for yourself, to take this time to, yeah, do a lot of self-healing
Yeah,
or
absolutely,
self-love.
absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm interested. You're a multi instrumentalist. You're a composer, developer. You work on this project, a whole bunch of other projects. Do you
Mm.
have to protect yourself from overworking or from burnout? And what are your methods for
uh yeah, short answer, yes.
that?
A big yes in impact
Yeah.
font, uppercase letters. Um i i find that at least during this time that it was really difficult to juggle things, because obviously the situation has kind of forced me to, like, okay, you need to deal with this kind of now, because we don't know what the long-term plans are going to be like. So I'm just like, okay, that's that's something that you need to process and work around. Yeah, so burnout is something that I'm actually still recovering from previous things, but also it's something that I constantly feel like I'm peaking at. So I'm like,
Mhm.
oh boy, this is this is a really personal thing for me. So again, I don't know if it works for you. Everyone works differently. Um, but yeah, I think it's the way that I kind of try to cope is like definitely talk to more people and be like, hey, I'm being really careful with my own energy levels. Like there is, as a creative, there's like creative energy and general energy just to like do everything, like tidy a room, do chores, sort out email.
Yeah.
And then there's a different kind of energy, at least for me as a creative. There's the energy to create. That's like 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 what, like creating something out of nothing is actually a really big thing, at least for me. So that creative energy, I need to guard it with my life, because I I'm in a position where, no, this is my actual work thing. I need creative energy to work, so I need to literally guard it with my life. Um, yeah, so yeah, say no to things, reach out to people and say, yeah, I'm being very careful with maintaining those different energy types. And also, like, if I do feel like if I'm guilty or like beating myself up, I need to be like more aware of that, because I need to be like, okay, is this more like, am I creating like a negative creative energy and creating process loop where I'm spending all of those kind of energies with beating myself up? Or am I being more like, okay, that has happened, am I aware of it? I should be aware that I'm not using those energies to feed that cycle, and then like, okay, either I take a break or have an early night or just nap or whatever. So that's basically what I've been doing to, I guess, cope with burnout.
That's a really
Yeah.
interesting way of looking at it, as kind of separate reserves of energy that
Yeah.
need to be nurtured. And I think I saw something circulating. Someone was saying it was some principles for working remotely, and the first phrase was it was, you are not working from home, you are at home during a crisis trying to work.
Yes.
And I thought, that's a really simple way of flipping the idea on its head, a really simple guiding principle for kind of understanding that you have limitations.
Yeah.
And if you want to protect yourself, you have to be realistic. And when you talked about guilt, I thought, that's a really key emotion right now that a lot of people are struggling with. And it didn't help that when this all started, there was a lot of people saying, hey, you should be using this time to master a new language and bake banana bread and
yeah,
tackle the big novels, even though actually when you tackle the big novels, you tackle them in small doses, right? This is actually not the ideal time to be doing things like that, but we were all told that it was. And I think a lot of people struggled with that, and hopefully we've moved past that point. But that was a real bummer at the start, wasn't it? But I think on the flip side of the coin as well, I've certainly struggled to want to work at all and to feel in any way. I think these are circumstances that can actually crush your creativity. And I'm wondering, do you have, not necessarily just now, but in general, do you have times or periods where you struggle to get motivated, and what do you do to bring that energy back?
Yeah, I'm going to be really honest and say that I became an actual slob. It's it's like sure, I'll game for 15 hours straight kind of thing. But again, this is a really personal thing with this is my approach to like, there's at least two separate types of energies for me. So one is like normal generic energy, and the other one is creative energy. I find that, okay, if I game for like 15 hours straight, I am indulging, and I'm trying to connect with that creative side of myself, just because during this situation where it is really difficult to create during pretty much a global crisis, right? And if I do indulge, then I'm reconnecting that creative part in myself, in terms of like, I find creating things joyful again. I find it interesting. I'm trying to find that really core, I don't know, feeling, whatever it is. It's like, this is the part in which I enjoy in games. This is the part that I want to share in games. This is that feeling that I want to create in games. So if it does happen to like be indulging in like, okay, playing games until like 5 a.m, but at least I feel creatively full or ready to go.
Energized by that.
So it's again a different kind of energy. Like physically I am dead, but creatively I'm like, that means tomorrow, kind of tomorrow. Like after sleeping, then I'm like, that means that I can capture that feeling that I've lost for so long after being burnt out. I can capture that feeling a bit more and try to recreate it into that new track that I'm writing, or the new artwork or something. I don't know if other artists has this kind of creative energy, like a separate energy,
Mhm.
but that's basically what I felt during this period. It's just like for me, I just had to indulge and be that slob and play for like 50 hours straight.
I love it. I love that's the message. Be a
Yeah.
slob. So looking forward,
Yeah.
tell me, how is Game Dev London developing out of Game Dev Lunch, and what will this kind of new phase allow you to do that you couldn't do before?
So first of all, it's like I was running Game Dev Lunch all by myself, so that was just like, oh no, I can only dedicate like technically 2 hours a month during a random lunchtime, and then that was it. As the community grew, and basically, I feel like the community grew because I was very adamant about the ethos of our group. So for example, like yeah, I'd have a donation system because Meetup charges, and it's just like, oh, okay, yeah, that's not fair if I fork it out every month. So yeah, there's an ethos of like a community group. There's a donation thing. I'm really open and clear and transparent about it.
Mm-hmm.
Donations will go towards meetup and like website costs or whatever that we need. Sometimes we have summer picnics, so that's really nice.
Amazing.
Yeah, so like whatever is in the kitty, we like, okay, we can buy like extra drinks or cups and cutlery for our picnics, and that makes it, like really extra nice. Um, and the whole ethos of like, oh hey, so this is like a safe space in terms of like like name badges, and I do encourage people to write their pronouns if they want. So like, just like actually making an effort to talk to like new people, greet everyone who turned up, especially with the new people. It's like, like really small actions like this.
Mhm.
And I think this is what made the community group grow, because they're like, you should definitely check out Game Dev Lunch because Jade's really awesome. She'll come up and actually talk with you. And if I do spot anyone who's like kind of by themselves, I try to integrate them into like a small group. Like try to read the vibe if they're like just taking it a breather or something like that, because that's a really good thing about meeting in the library. It's a quiet space,
Yeah.
so you're not like at a football match in a noisy pub where you have to shout at someone next to you over a pint or something. So it's like really small things like that. So yeah, going back to your question, the community group grew, therefore the organization team grew, and then I was just like, yeah, let's just kind of continue. And then obviously, because the community grew, the demands grew as well. So people are like, oh, can we not meet up over the weekend? Can we not meet up in the evening? And I'm like, I'd love to, but I am personally very busy because, I go to gigs, or I perform at gigs, or I'm
Mhm.
at a music class, or, doing everything else under the sun. So, so obviously due to that, having a bigger team meant that, okay, we could definitely do things. So we have experimented with evening events. We've done things at Samsung as well. So, it's slowly growing from there. And yeah, I've forgotten my train of thought. What was the question again? Yeah, so
No,
it's
I
growing up.
think you've made the
Yeah.
point. This is
Oh,
a growing
good, good.
project, and there's
Yeah.
sky's the limit, really.
Yes.
We can find new ways to help people. Maybe in particular at this time, we can
Yes.
provide reassurance. There's experts on the team who can provide great advice. And when it
Yep.
comes to lunches and events, when the time comes,
Yeah.
we'll be kind of renewed and refreshed. So yeah, I
Yes.
think there's so much potential.
Yeah. So yeah, fingers crossed. Like, we're trying this out now. It wasn't in our original plans, but if people can find like some kind of comfort with whatever we're talking about, then that's really my aim for this group. It's like you come by, be part of the community, have a good time, and then yeah, do make great games, hopefully.
Yeah, and know that there are other people who are who are going through what you're going through, and
Yeah,
share your
definitely.
passion. Yeah. Well, that's
Yes.
fantastic. I think we might be going to get kicked off pretty
Oh,
soon.
okay.
So
Sure,
maybe we
sure,
can
yeah.
wrap up there. But it's been really great speaking to you. Thank you so much.
No, thank you
Thank
as
you
well.
for sort of being a kind of, I think, inspirational figure
Oh.
for developers who are looking to find their feet and find their space. And I'm really excited to where this goes next.
Yeah. So fingers crossed, keep an eye out on meetup.com for eventually whenever we have a launch starting up again. And I'm working with bigger events with the team. So yeah, just keep an eye out, I guess, for now. Right. Bye.